let's get into the news of the day. And let's first get into the massive, massive strikes that are happening across the world right now. I think I listed out all the countries on Twitter. Hold on. Before we get into it, I just want to list out, again, all the countries right now in the last couple of days that have seen either mass strikes, partial strikes, or general strikes, okay? India, Germany, the U.S., Greece, South Korea, Mexico, Philippines, Spain, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Italy, Poland, Bangladesh, Brazil, and Australia. In the last couple of days, and including today, we're seeing general strikes in all of those countries. I think it's important to pay attention to and make note of. But this is also something that's been going on for some time. I remember this morning when someone brought up the strikes in India happening today, or yesterday, actually, more specifically. I obviously remember what happened in January when there was a massive general strike as well. And I kind of didn't realize that there was another one going on. That shows, obviously, the lack of attention it's getting in Western and obviously specifically U.S. media. But it seems to be honest, this movement seems to be growing. And obviously with COVID happening, it's going to be even increasing as poverty and destitution is increasing for the working class in India. Over 250 million workers have joined in a national strike in India. And these are workers from, every part of every sector, whether private or public, whether they be auto workers, whether they be transportation workers, whether they be restaurant workers, whatever it may be, government workers included. It seems to be a massive national strike against the Modi regime, if we want to call it that. I think it should be truly called that. From what we've heard about human rights abuses and potential persecution, not potential, evident persecution of the Muslim population in India. We've seen an increasing of sort of fascist, of private capitalist interest in India. And it's been going on for some time. It's been going on for decades, to be honest. And the rise of India on the global stage of capitalism and the rising, or at least in terms of how it's portrayed, the expansion of wealth in India, same as how like it gets portrayed in China, is without a doubt combined with sort of a privatization program within those two countries. There's just no other way to look about it. It's pure like neoliberal wet dreams where you have a sort of xenophobic fascist like Narendra Modi come into power. His party comes into power. You have a country that has a lot of nationalized services like healthcare and such, unemployment benefits and the like, and you see this systemic stripping away. Social Security is being attacked within India, and it will not be surprising that this is, an increasing issue, because right now, I think at the beginning of this year, we had almost 80 million people that are unemployed in India right now. That's almost 100 million people are unemployed in India. Okay? And obviously with COVID happening in between that time, and at this point, I think it's almost 150,000 people have died in India, but we do know that is severely underreported due to the lack of testing done in India, that this issue would be exasperated in extreme ways. I will say this. Obviously, I try to keep away from, to be honest, outlets I don't know that well. So I don't know the World Socialist website. I don't know them that well. I don't know who backs them, etc. I don't know if they're a Trotskyite organization, whatever it may be. Because it does, I'll be honest, in these two articles that I have from them, and the few articles I can find about this subject at all are actually on this website. They talk about the sort of labor union leadership and Stalinist organizations, to be honest. That's why I think it might be a Trotskyite website, sort of exploiting the issue in India right now, and that these sort of leftist parties and labor unions within India have progressively or regressively sort of aligned themselves with the state, with sort of pro-capitalist interests, with pro-privatization initiatives. And there seems to be a sort of concern, I would say, at least from what these articles portray, as to the lack of sort of socialist leftist leadership in this movement right now. It seems to be co-opted by reactionary forces. Something to pay attention to. And like I said, this is not just happening in India, and obviously this is for a myriad of issues across the world. General strikes in Greece right now, or sorry, yesterday, will disrupt the public transportation. We've seen mass strikes in South Korea in their auto factories, and obviously today we've seen massive strikes in 15 countries from Amazon workers, and like I said, countries in North America, in Europe, and in Asia. I mean, over a dozen countries right now are striking due to pro-austerity measures, to pro-capitalist measures, to the privatization of sort of social benefits. This is going to be, I feel like we're in this sort of pinpoint in history, to be honest, where so much is happening. This sort of acceleration of history is happening as well. And, you know, we talk about this often, as well, the sort of the radicalization that we've been seeing. Not only the right, because I think that gets talked about a lot in the media, is how like the right has been radicalized, especially in the U.S., but sort of an equal measure in a way, and sort of has to be, the left and sort of workers organizations have risen in the last decade and have been radicalized far more in the last decade than what we've seen in the last 50 years, to be honest. Like, you go from 2008 before, like from 1960 to 2008. Think about the way leftist movements and organizations were treated, how much they were repressed and persecuted amongst that time, and how it was so hard to really gain any traction. That's why you saw this rise of neoliberalism in the 80s and 90s that I think directly led to sort of the Occupy movement and obviously the crash and recession in 2007 and 8. You know, that sort of extreme event, obviously the recession in 2007, 2008, that led to massive radicalization of the right, but obviously led to a massive radicalization of the left. And where that takes us, I don't know, to be honest. But it seems like we are trending in the right direction when it comes to attacking key points in sort of the globalization of capital, right? You know, talking about like massive strikes in India. When we talk about an international proletariat revolution, we have to center countries that are the most exploited by sort of neoliberal globalization, right? So like India, for example, China, these are countries that we have to focus on. And we have to work on creating true socialist revolutions within those countries. Because otherwise, I don't think we ever really deal with the capitalist issue that we have from a global perspective. Because, you know, let's say we have a socialist revolution in the U.S., which is still, I think, a pipe dream in today's age right now. Like that would not be feasible right now in today's time. But let's say, you know, years from now we can do it. I don't think that really solves the issue. To be honest, just like the revolution against Tsarist Russia didn't solve capitalist interests across the world. Of course not. It can't. So it's just interesting to pay attention to as we see this, again, massive rise in a radicalized workforce, labor force, again, from across the world, that we have to sort of galvanize those moments and these people and these movements and progress them towards a socialist horizon. That's just the reality.